on the whole, not a good look for the NRL, especially
No.
with all these tight contests really putting the crowds on a knife edge.
Really, so far this season, there's been no major, well, not as many major blowout scores. They've been pretty tight games, which is going to be hard for people like us to predict who's going to win.
Well, these two who weren't exactly tight, but they were certainly entertaining depending on the fan base. The Rabbitohs recording their first win of the season, downing the Roosters 28 points to 16.
Yes, where do I start with this match? It was a really solid match, which is what I was going to think, being a, what would you say, derby, you could say?
Oh, this was
or rivalry.
the rivalry of all Australian rivalries.
Yes. It did lean in favour of the Rabbits, but then it kind of went back into the Roosters' favour, then back into the Rabbits for the rest of the match.
I gotta say, I was actually very disappointed in the Roosters. I thought after round two, whose performance against Manly, I thought they turned the corner. They were their own worst enemy that night. I'll just come out and say it. They were their worst own enemy. And the Rabbitohs absolutely capitalised in that first half. The moment Billy Smith drops the ball and Cam Murray scoops it up and runs off with it to score the opening try, you know the Rabbitohs have just entered the ascendancy.
Exactly. You beat me to it. I was going to say, since Cameron Murray's first strike on the Roosters' era, they'll just foot down, head down, tail up.
And the errors, 12 errors. That doesn't help the cause either.
No, that's not. Well, it's not like the Roosters either to make that many errors, but they made that many errors. It was not funny.
And the Rabbitohs, I don't know where they keep finding this, especially against the Roosters. You think of 5 out of the last 7 times these two sides have met in 3 years, the Rabbitohs have absolutely walked over the top of them.
True.
And they've been big score. Round 20, 2020, that historic 60 points to 8 thrashing. But round 24 last year, when Latrell decided to have a bit of cheek off Anu, 54 to 12. And then even the round 3 clashes as well. This one and last year's. Just come out and put a scoreline on the Roosters.
Yeah, so, well, like I said, form goes out windows when it comes to like this. Like, Rabbitohs is their first win of the season. And then the Roosters, they had, the 1-1 heading into this round. So, and they look like to be in a better form based on the Manly game, but then come out and did a performance like this. So, like I said, form goes out the window. And that's what certainly happened in this one.
I was actually very surprised that they actually did winger to fullback in this game. In the run-up to Latrell Mitchell's try, I'm pretty sure Alex Johnston already has the ball, somehow finds Jackson Paulo infield. I don't know if he shifted back over the centre and Nrlw back out to the flank, but he was already there on that side. Only to then find Latrell Mitchell in the middle, nobody in front of him, and races the way to put the exclamation mark on what really was a dominant night for South Sydney.
It certainly was. Before, just go back a few minutes earlier with Keelan Koala McTarney's try, his first attempt, do you think he bombed it? Not the try he scored, the one before that got disallowed.
Hard to say.
Well, to me, it was hard to see and try and figure it out. It did eventually get disallowed because he apparently knocked on in the put down, but I don't know.
I tell you what, the second try, the one that was actually allowed, just poor defensive read from Satili Tupanua.
And he's usually all over. He's usually putting them big hits all over.
He can fold a player in half, you're right. And he can also, he's got good leg speed on him to put himself in that position to score a try. But here, caught out on the back foot, and I did not see anyway, and I think it was actually Paulo to Johnston to Mitchell, because Johnston's actually credited with the try assist. But the main stand-up for me, and I think this is another real captain's knock right here, Cam Murray. 1 try, 2 try assists, 152 running meters, 3 tackle breaks, and 1 offload. And the fact that he was playing, according to the official clock, 77 minutes.
Yeah, well, he started off the bench.
No, I'm pretty sure he was there the whole time.
Or was he not? Oh, no, I didn't the week before. No, sorry.
Not there the whole time, and
Yeah.
he was only let off in the final 3 minutes.
Yeah, sorry, I was getting mixed up with the week before.
What a solid effort, though.
But that's what you need from a captain. And before you said the stats, I was going to say, Cam Murray, he did a couple try assists there, so he is on fire at the moment. He is such a good young kid coming through. South need to lock him up long term.
Well, he is locked up long term. He's locked up until the end of 2025.
Yeah.
No wonder they gave him the captaincy after Adam Reynolds' departure.
Exactly, and it's thoroughly deserved, though. Absolutely thoroughly deserved.
I agree. I always thought he would end up being the captain personally.
One day, I reckon, he's going to be the Blues captain. One day. Not necessarily this year, but maybe...
Depending whether or not Tedesco is available and fit, that would be my only concern.
Yeah. So, I'll say maybe 5-ish years down the track, he could be captain of the state.
Nathan Cleary as well. I think that's the other concern. But speaking of Nathan Cleary, his Penrith Panthers did another good job without him, downing the Newcastle Knights 38 points to 20.
Yes. It was a tight match for Newcastle, you could say. Well, not tight.
It started off tight.
It put them back to reality, which is pretty much what I said. This match will put them back to reality if they lose.
I had a lot of questions over the engine room of the Panthers. And it was very fair. I mean, I did tip Newcastle on the basis of the fact there was no To'o, no Fisher-Harris, and there was no Martin. So there was some key men, alongside not having Moses Leota, some key men in the engine room that weren't there to get Penrith sets rolling and dominate the middle of the field. Well, how bloody wrong was I? Scott Sorensen in the back five. That actually makes for a good Western Sydney band right there.
It does.
Scotty in the back five.
Yeah. No, but Newcastle looked like they were in the match, but then... Well, what?
Gutsy. I would say they were gutsy.
Yeah, even with a man down since the 32nd minute.
Yes, of course, in reference to Mitch Barnett clocking Chris Smith with the raised elbow.
But there was absolutely no need for it, though. Mitch Barnett was going across the field. I don't know why he was going across the field. He was going across the field suddenly. He just went up and ran past him and boom, into the face with his forearm. And that resulted in a send-off. But there was no need for it.
Yeah.
He had a brain explosion.
Yeah, like Will Smith. Brain explosion.
Pretty much. That's pretty much what it was.
Yeah, but this was no slap on a comedian right here. This is business. This is serious business right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's cost him, 6 weeks?
There were actually debate. He could have actually gotten 10.
I did hear when he first got that, when they were first talking about it, it could be 6 to 10 weeks. And 6 weeks here, so he got off fairly light. Well,
He didn't get off light. He pleaded guilty for a fact.
but it could have been worse though.
His main argument was it wasn't deliberate. It was reckless, but not deliberate.
Bullshit! It was deliberate. You could tell he was just running across or jogging back across the field to I don't know what.
It'd actually be funny if
and just went up and went boom.
It'd actually be funny if he gets Dalian second row of the year and everyone's applauding him for it.
Probably.
It'd be Rugby League Oscars right here.
Yeah, possibly. But that's a long way to go before we see that happen.
I don't think he will, but it would actually be ironic if he does. Because,
it would be.
Yeah, and that's your little Will Smith, Chris Rock reference in Rugby League right here.
Yep.
A Smith involved, so...
Yeah, it was. No, but Penrith, they were just, once they got the foot down, It's like, in the 10-minute period, there was... 1, 2, 3 tries in like 10 minutes. From Targo's double. Targo double and then Crichton.
The kicking game of Jerome Luai really did a number on the night. And Isaac Tago, for me, was a standout. I mean, everyone's talking about the hat-trick hero Taylor May, and of course, fair enough. But
his second start?
I think so.
I did hear it's his second. He's played NRL first grade before, correct?
Yeah.
I think it's his second start and he scored a hat-trick, so...
But yeah, for Isaac Tago, 2 tries, 2 try assists, 117 running metres and 1 offload. But that final 20 minutes did a real number on Newcastle with 12 men on the field.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's just the fatigue factor.
The short kicking game as well. That's what got the Knights out of shape, both on the right and on the left. Well, more on the left-hand side, it was just crisp passing from Dylan Edwards and Stephen Crichton that did them out. But yeah, that short kicking game, mainly of Tago and Luai, did all the damage.
It certainly did. They were just on fire, that Tago and May side of the field. They were just all over it. Knights were lucky to get 2 somewhat late-ish tries, with Bradman Besson's 63rd and then Tuala on 71st.
I actually liked the scrum play they did with Dominic Young to get the first try.
Yes.
I got huge raps on Dominic Young. I mean, this is the third try he scored in 3 games this year alone.
Yeah.
Much better strike rate than he had when he was in and out of the side last year. And with Heimel Hunt still absent, I think Newcastle have got the right idea, but they are really heading into next week as the walking wounded.
They definitely are, but it's still... You could kind of say Dominic Young is still learning the ropes of the NRL, because he's been in and out too much.
Put it this way. Less than 20 games of first-grade experience, regardless of whether it's NRL or Super League.
Yeah.
So there's still a long way to go, but he's really adding to that highlights reel at the moment.
And quickly, too.
Very fast. And to cap off, more disappointment for the Knights, having copped an embarrassing first loss to the season. The women's side, Wooden Spooners in their first ever NRLW season. What is it with the Steel City and Spoons? Going down to Gold Coast, 14 points to 10. Newcastle are the Wooden Spooners, but this time it's the women. But I gotta ask, this is now 4 Wooden Spoons in the space of 10 years, both men and women, though we can't really judge the women too harshly because it's only their first year. But even so, 0-5.
Well, Newcastle showed so much energy and defence, like strong defence in round 1 against Parramatta at McDonald Jones in Newcastle. They only narrowly lost. And then since then, they went on to further decline. Like, you saw it in the Knights Eels match. They were the defence was like a brick wall. Their tackle was going so well, but then since then it's just gone downhill quickly.
They have these periods where the Knights, they try and throw a punch, they try and make it stick, but then they just can't back it up with a good 1-2 combo. Everyone has just come over the top of Newcastle, and it's come to this point here where once again they had a fast start against the Titans. Bouncing ball could have gone anywhere. A misfield if ever I've ever seen one.
I think it's more a bouncing ball than anything. I got caught the Gold Coast off guard.
Yeah.
But then they didn't score again until late on in the match. Like in the final 10 minutes.
And then you looked at the Titans. I mean, they were stunned, Gold Coast. I would have said, well and truly, they didn't expect Newcastle to come out of the blocks like that.
I personally wasn't expecting it either.
The 1-2 punch of Nuasala and Phoebe Desmond, having now shifted into the front row, that really troubled the Titans in the first half.
It did. I have to say, Phoebe Desmond, she had a good run and almost made the line, but obviously didn't have enough leg speed. But that was a really good run, though, I have to say, for a front rower.
At the end of the day, you have to score tries and you have to defend them as well. And at the end of it, the Titans just managed, after being held out 6-0 heading into halftime, the Titans had not got a try on the board until Elliston got over. And since then, and I'm pretty sure, ricochet off from a Brittany Brayley-Narty kick, a little grubber into the in goal, very innocuous, and that result was generated. And that really turned the Titans back into the momentum and the ascendancy.
It definitely did. That was the turning point in the match. Newcastle could have hung on, which they were defending so well for, like we have seen would say in patches throughout the season. It's going to say majority of the season, but in patches throughout the season. But then, yeah, that was a turning point in the match, that ricochet try.
The Titans just went to work out on the edges, pulling the Knights' defense, and it's out beautiful hands of the Steph Hancock pass that led up to the Haley J. Manswell try.
Yeah. See, Steph Hancock, she's been around for a while now, so she used all of experience in that one right there.
But yeah, I think the Titans performed very well. 5 weeks that they got to play, 7 once you put the finals in. We could probably be seeing them round 20, 21 at the earliest.
Across the men's side.
Early August or September for the
Yeah.
NRLW 2022 B season.
Yeah. So I'll have not much of an off season. Because what are we? March. She'll be finishing second week of April. I think the grand final's on April 10th.
Yeah, Sunday.
So the weekend before Easter. So that'll be May, June, July, and then probably get into pre-season August, or maybe not, maybe only May, June.
And I've actually got another question. The Ruan Sims medal, will it be awarded in Easter or after Anzac Day, or is it going to be awarded at the end of this year when both NRLW seasons are out of the way? I'm now genuinely curious about what the go is, because they still recognise it 2021. I say it's 2022 A and B.
Yeah.
But are they going to recognise the Ruan Sims Player of the Year both at the same time, both the A and B season winners, or are they going to do them separate?
I'd say they're going to do it at the end of the grand final of the 2022 A season. That's just a guess. That's what I reckon they're going to do, is put it at the end of the grand final.
Sound off in the comment section if you've got an opinion. Now, moving on, the Parramatta Eels, and probably the upset of the round, downing the Melbourne Storm, relatively full strength, in Melbourne, in Golden Point, 28 points to 24.
What a absolute cracker of a game we saw. It was, especially the last, 10 minutes of it, it was nail-biting.
This was an absolute stunner of a game. Hey, I honestly couldn't believe how close Parramatta were in it, but all credit to them, they were in it.
They were. Pretty much from when the whistle to start the match, they were in it.
I mean, they had that cheap try they conceded against the Cheese, back in the lineup, of course, even though he has a broken hand. But I tell you what, Parramatta's left edge, under strength, but still firing a whole lot of shots.
Yeah, it most certainly was. And to beat Melbourne in Melbourne.
Relatively full strength. So this is not an Origin depleted or a spicy cough ridden in under strength sort of side. No, this was full strength Melbourne in Melbourne.
I think
in front of 15,000.
Yeah. I've heard commentators say that this is the second time that Melbourne have lost to the same team 3 times in a row. The other one was Canberra back in 1920 when...
Whoa. Oh, you mean in 2019 to 2020?
Yeah, because the first time, I think it was in Melbourne too. You had, I can't remember what round it was.
Actually, round
final.
18, 2019, the qualifying final, first versus fourth, with John Bateman coming up with that absolute belter of a try. And then round 3, 2020, during the restart, because of the spicy cough.
Yes. And that's 3 times in Melbourne from Canberra. And now it's 3 times in Melbourne for Parramatta.
Well, against Melbourne, because remember...
Against Melbourne, sorry.
Combank round 2 last year, Suncorp Stadium round 24 last year, and now round 3 this year in Melbourne, which is quite the achievement.
Yeah, so that doesn't happen very often at all.
But I was very impressed with Dylan Brown. A lot of criticism has been made of Dylan Brown as of late, but I thought this was a moment he really stood up. 126 running meters, 2 try assists, 6 tackle breaks, and 1 line break assist. Personal highlight, apart from Ray Stone, Walker Blake. Blake on Pappy. Not necessarily Sivo on Tedesco, but there were shades of it here.
I reckon. I remember one of the commentators saying something along the lines of like, it's like Micah Sivo's out there.
I'm pretty sure it was Joey Johns that might have said it. Or...
No, it's during the Fox League.
Oh, yeah, it probably was Andrew Voss.
I don't know who it was, but yeah. And when they said it, I was like, oh yeah, it certainly was like Micah Sivo.
But thankfully this time they didn't need to call an ambulance.
No.
Or a priest.
No.
Walker Blake's no Micah Sivo, but he did a good job out there.
He did, and a thoroughly deserved try too. And knock over Pappenhausen, who's, let's just say, a smaller build than what Walker Blake is.
I genuinely love the physicality that was being shown out there. Especially before the grubbiness, the running battle between Big Nelson and Makatoa.
Yeah.
You gotta love that.
Yeah.
You honestly gotta love that.
It's a part of rugby league, and it's a part that the fans love to see.
The best part, it's often the get square.
Yes.
When Nelson got all up in Makatoa's face when he made a mistake, doing the little sarcastic clap you do right up in the face, and then moments later, Nelson drops the ball. Guess what? Same again.
Yeah.
And but I like that. What goes around comes around. But I've got to say, Nelson was very, very lucky. He got off with that cheap shot of a hit.
Oh, yeah. He's very, very lucky indeed. He could have been out for a while then.
That was probably 5 weeks asking for it. He was lucky he didn't get frog marched then and there, especially after the whole controversy with Mitch Barnett.
Exactly. He could have easily, like I said, gone for 5 weeks, but instead he got away with a fine.
Yeah, very, very lucky. And speaking of Nelson, he too was involved in the next try assist, though it was for the Eels with Ray Stone's first try in probably the most insane period of a football match since the mayhem in Melbourne of 2018 with the punch on between Scott and Walker. Ray Stone getting the Falcon try assist of Nelson Asofa Solomona.
Yes, that was awesome. I thought, well, you don't see a Falcon try assist very often at all.
Never happens. It absolutely
Did it actually
never
officially
happens.
go down in the official records as a Asofa Solomona try assist? Or
Well, we're counting it here.
Okay.
It probably didn't count, but we're counting it here.
Okay. That's a fair enough call. That's our Sideline Chat record book here. 1 Falcon try assist of the year.
And the stat that Vossi came up with, that where Ryan Pappenhausen scores, Melbourne win a game. If he doesn't, they lose.
Well, that theory's gone out the window.
It hasn't it just. He scores with 5 minutes to go, break up the middle. Gutherson couldn't come across fast enough, or was the victim of a 2-on-1 actually.
But it was Smith to Munster to Pappenhausen.
The new big parts of the new big four down at the Storm.
And like Vossi
There's just
said,
no replacing
and
them,
like what
is there?
Vossi said, superstar to superstar to superstar.
To the block of cheese.
Well, yeah.
Well, 3 superstars and a big block of cheese.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much. But that's pretty much when the game got turned on its head to lock it up.
For now. Or it got turned on its head for now.
Yes, for now. The next part, what do we say?
I honestly thought it was over when Melbourne had that shot at field goal. I honestly thought it was.
Yeah, but they missed it.
And I was like, what more craziness could they get out of that?
Well, Arcs Parramatta.
Because Pappenhausen misses at regulation time. Moses misses a 2-point field goal attempt. But they're very hard to hit.
Yes.
And then we go into extra time. Parramatta get the ball halfway through. And then it was like Townsville 2017 all over again. But instead of the Cowboys Raiders, it's the Storm Eels.
I reckon. It was so identical it wasn't funny.
But it reveals something about the Eels that out of all 13 men on the field, one man put himself in position to chase that kick down.
Yeah.
Ray Stone.
Yes. But in saying that, he did his ACL.
Oh, that's just pure unfortunate. That he scores the try, he wins the game, takes the Eels to a 2-1 record to start the season, and then he tears his ACL.
Yeah.
But that's the sort of commitment Brad Arthur can be proud of.
Yes. But how he got that try was Mitch Moses took a shot at a 1-point field goal. It hit the
right hand upright. Ricochets.
Pappenhausen couldn't get there.
No, it was actually Jerome Hughes. And I got to say, Jerome Hughes.
Well, Pappenhausen was at the back too. Behind the post, just in case it missed.
Yeah.
And Ray Stone got the ball and went, yeah, here we go, see you later. And as he scored a try...
He tore his ACL.
Unfortunate, but he did a bloody good job to get that
Cold
try.
hero. That's a cult moment for Parramatta right there. And I think people remember that and say, that is what the Eels are capable of. And now they've knocked off the reigning minor premiers.
And that's the only time they played him this year too, is it correct?
Round 25, I think they play. But it's at Combank, so fair chance.
Yep.
Answer that one. But
Fortress, Combank. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Fortress, Combank.
Yeah, gotta love Fort Com right there.
Yep.
But their women did not have the best outing at all, getting annihilated by the Brisbane Broncos, 38 points to 4.
I'm not going to say much about this because I wasn't happy with the end result.
Well, pretty sad. Bovetti Welsh went down, suspected torn ACL. So Parramatta were already behind the 8 ball early.
Even headed into the 2022 B season. Because ACLs are out. But what I'm referring to is Brisbane Broncos winning their 4th straight minor premiership.
Oh, now I see where you're
knocking off the Dragons.
You're salty because the Broncos almost beat the highest point scoring record that St. George Illawarra had only set 2 weeks prior.
Well,
or last week.
No, not that. It was the minor premiership. The Dragons are leading it. That's what I mean. The Dragons, I couldn't get too excited that the Dragons were in front and almost had the minor premiership sealed because I knew it was going to come down to this last game, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, hi.
The Broncos had to basically lose or score less than 21 points.
Yeah, hi. Can I get 2 regular chips, please? I won't need salt. I got plenty right here.
But anyway, no, credit to the Broncos. They're just showing time and time again that why they're so dominant in NRLW. So well done to them. There's still finals to go.
Parramatta were behind the 8 ball, but their defence just fell in a massive, massive heap. It just wasn't funny to watch.
No.
Watch how it happened.
And being a scoreline of 16-4 at half-time, yeah, not pretty.
But, yeah, the domination through the field. Well, the Broncos had, for the 80 to 70 minutes, I should say, accurately, 2/3 of the ball in possession.
Yeah.
And no wonder they ran up 6 tries. It could have even been more. 7 tries. Yeah, it could have even been more.
7 tries, 5 conversions.
Oh, but no, a very solid effort. And of course, one girl on my mind that, not because I've been watching SAS Australia when I've had the chance and the fact that she's passed selection and for it, Millie Boyle. I'm going to say it probably second or third time I've done it. I don't care.
I think it's back-to-back weeks as well. But
Millie Boyle, 244 running meters, 4 tackle breaks, and 1 offload.
That's
what a mountainous effort.
That is a lot of mileage for a forward.
See, I'm not prejudiced. I like SAS Australia as much as the next bloke does. But yeah, very unfortunate for Parramatta in the position for the finals. The Roosters had lost, so I thought as long as the Broncos didn't win by 3 tries or more, they would have made it. But yeah, just so close.
So close, yet so far.
And they weren't even the worst performers. Definitely better than the Roosters were. I will say that Parramatta absolutely better than the Roosters.
I agree. So the Roosters were very, very lucky to get into the finals.
They lose, but they don't lose that much. And then the Broncos do them a favour, and they get to play finals again.
Yeah. And I think we'll go grand final rematch from last year in the semi-finals.
Oh, well, that's going to be interesting.
I think. Don't quote me on it, but we will touch on that later.
Now, moving on to the final Saturday game, the Canberra Raiders coming from nowhere to down the Gold Coast Titans 24-22 at home.
Equal best comeback from Canberra.
In 40 years, I've heard.
Yeah. So, Canberra have done this before, been 22 points down and come back and won. But what a game it was. When was the turning point, would you say, in the final?
It was half
20
time.
minutes?
It was literally the final minute of the half. The Titans have had the ascendancy up until this point. Soft defense on the Raiders' right edge, and then Tino just barreling his way through the middle with 5 minutes to go. I was sitting there thinking, oh yeah, the Titans have got this one sewn up. They're going to put 40 on here.
That didn't happen.
And then Semi Velame, the big Fijian wing, is just like, yeah, no, cuz not happening, bruh.
Yeah. And then pretty much on then, it was just Canberra all the way to the end.
It was the left edge of the Raiders that then responded in kind onto the Gold Coast right edge. And Matt Tomoko, he just went nuts.
Yeah, 2 tries in 5 minutes, to be very precise.
It just went absolutely nuts. And then the setup work. And I feel like when you're down or really trying to stage a comeback, you need your hearts to stand up. I think Jack Whiten was very solid, but Brad Schneider did a whole lot more. Especially in the final 20 minutes. His kicking game, his selection and kicking game put the Raiders in the box seat to really, as you said, equal their greatest comeback in 40 years.
Yeah.
That beautiful select pass first up to Sebastian Chris cut out probably 3 Titans defenders.
Yeah.
And then the perfect weighted grubber that helped set up Charles Klukstad for the grandstand finish.
Yeah, the one that sealed the victory.
100 running meters, 2 try assists, a tackle break, and like Nico Hines against the Sharks in round 2, not the best showing with the boot, but strike them well when it matters the most. 2 from 5 goals converted. One of those converting the Nickel Klukstad try.
Yeah, that's pretty much a very similar situation as what Hines did against Parramatta last week.
And I was very ropeable about that result.
Yes. But no, Canberra dug deep. I don't know what Ricky Stewart said to him in the sheds at half time, but it got them
Probably
firing.
the same thing he said to Ryan Sutton.
Which was?
You dropped.
Yeah, maybe.
Or probably got into Instagram matches with players' wives. But yeah, he's definitely showing the sun is setting on the British contingent in Canberra.
Yeah.
But other than that, and we got to talk about the Fijian barbecue that AJ Brimson unfortunately had to endure.
Go on.
The ribs.
Oh,
the ribs.
Yeah. The ribs.
How does he like Fijian barbecue after Semi Velame absolutely crunched him?
Probably not very good at all. He'll be a bit sore after that one.
Should
I say a bit burnt for a couple of days.
That was just an absolute beautiful hit. It's just like, because we know the Titans like to throw the ball around. So then you get Velame shooting up from nowhere, and it's like, come at me.
Pretty much.
Gotta love that. Ropeable about the Titans result because the tipping has not gone well to this point. If you watched last week, I'll probably leave the link down in the description or at the very end. The tipping has not gone well. My reasoning and logic has been thrown out the window this round.
Well, this season as well, to be quite honest with you.
Maybe not so much this season, but...
Well, I know, tipping-wise, I had a shocker of a week, round 2, but this one I pulled back, I think. But anyway.
I couldn't recover fast enough, and results like these did not help the cause. The Cowboys, 38-12 winners over the Brisbane Broncos. What in the bloody hell happened to Brisbane here?
They didn't turn up. That's pretty much what it was. The Broncos did not turn up. At the Cowboys, they were on fire. 2 wins in a row. They're 2-1 to start the season. And everyone, well, I had them down as finishing second last on the ladder.
And I got the Cowboys in 16th. And before anyone asks about the career mode series, yes, that's still going on, but
we've had some issues.
And a pain in my ass called life keeps getting in the way. I would sit down for 5 hours and edit all 3 we've got in the works at the moment, as well as the 2022 World Club Challenge video that is still sitting there after nearly 2 months. They're all going to be out there soon. Just have a little bit of faith. I can only do so much in a week.
Yes, you can.
But the Broncos' defense was just soft as.
Yeah. There was just no word
no words whatsoever. Whether it was the aerial assaults from Jeremiah Nanai, the beautiful work he does in the air, and he's at much fitter man than he. Not to mention, goal line dropout he forced that led to the first try for the Cowboys before the skipper, not Townsend.
The first try for the Cowboys was for himself, mind you.
I just saw a complete collapse of the Broncos from what they did over the first 2 weeks against this North Queensland side that I still think are very much fancy for Wooden Spoon, but for now, they're playing like they're 2017 all over again.
Exactly right. And I have to say, it helps when you have a halfback like Tom Dearden playing quite well as of late. Last week and this week, he's been playing actually really decent, and I thought, he's going to the Cowboys, he'll just be doing what he's been doing at Brisbane. But he's gone to the Cowboys, and he's actually playing quite reasonable.
Well, they also reckon it's because of the influence that Chad Townsend's brought.
That would help too.
As well. But Tamalolo throwing short balls to Griffin Neiman. I don't think anyone saw that coming.
No.
Adam Reynolds certainly didn't.
Well, I didn't. Who would expect Tamalolo to do a pass like that?
Yeah, but I got to give it Jeremiah Nanai. 3 tries, 117 running meters, 2 tackle breaks, and 1 goal line dropout. We're going to pose the question to NRL statsman David Middleton, and as soon as we can, if there's a second rower who's done the similar thing in another game before now. But I don't think there is, personally.
Not that I can think of from the top of my head, no, but we'll get back to you on that. Might mention it next week.
But the Broncos just didn't get enough out of Katoni Staggs.
No. He had a very, very quiet night indeed.
And even with the attempts to get Herbie Farnworth into the game, they just couldn't throw anything at them.
Well, Farnworth did get the 2 Broncos tries, but...
Well, one being a penalty try, but just complete composure from the Cowboys, 91% completion rate, 3 mistakes that they've made that led to problems. I mean, they gave away a couple of set restarts, but other than that, a very tidy performance.
And to make it even better, Val Holmes, 7 from 7.
Or better.
6
3 goal line
conversions.
dropouts on top of that. At 7 offloads, matching the Broncos there, but 4 line breaks, 1.8 kilometers of running, and of course, like I said, only 3 sets where they failed to get a completion out of. From 37.
That's unbelievable.
But I still have questions and reservations over North Queensland heading up against quality opposition.
Yeah, only time will tell, eh?
And time will tell indeed, as the Manly Sea Eagles finally got a win on the board, downing my Canterbury Bulldogs 13 points to 12. Hey, look, I'm not that upset over the loss. I'm not.
Because the Dogs put in a reasonable fight.
We did. We
Reasonable
absolutely.
fight. A decent fight against a decent side.
From the word go, we were in the fight. And it looked like we were up 8-0 at one point. Burton didn't land the early goals, but 2 tries in front inside the opening 15 minutes.
One being in the first minute.
Yeah, from some very poor fielding from Ola Kawatu, and then Brandon Wakeham just scooping it up out of nowhere. I honestly think everyone had to do a double take on that one.
Pretty much. But But it goes. I know that the Dogs lost, but it goes to show that they have massively improved from last season, and they could be a dark horse.
I still have heavy reservations about that, and I mean,
there's still a long way to go.
Manly weren't entirely convincing, to be quite fair. Even though Tom Trbojevic got into a bit of space, I thought Seagulls weren't convincing all night.
No, they weren't, because they're at home in the new grandstand, which looks pretty good.
The Bob Fulton stand looks absolutely amazing.
They've done really well, and they've finally got the upgrades that they've been asking for since when Trent Barrett was the coach. And now Trent Barrett goes back there against opposition coach, and stuff's been done.
Tragic irony or poetic justice, I should say. Take your pick.
I don't know.
Look, as the rain poured down, and we've had issues with rain over this entire round that's just gone, the tries literally dried up just as the rain poured down.
Yeah, pretty much. The last try being Ruben Garrick's on pretty much half-time, and that was it. The only other points we saw in the second half was a penalty goal to the Dogs.
Two of them. Or one, actually.
One penalty goal, and then a field goal of Cherry Evans. That's all we saw in the second half. And I think 3 points.
Very lucky not to land the convert, especially for Matt Burton, because I think he had the shot to try and go for the 2-point field goal. But like Moses, couldn't nail it. I mean, if he nails it at 12 all, the Dogs go up 14-12, and the entire press line is different completely.
It would have been. And yeah, it was an unfortunate miss on Matt Burton. I can't remember if we didn't quite have the legs on it, or it waved away. I can't remember.
I think in both instances it was waved away.
Yeah. Had the length, had the power behind it, but just not on centre. But Trbojevic, Tom, has finally got a try to kickstart 2022.
We'll see where that goes. But I honestly thought Dylan Walker had a pretty decent game. Off the bench, as the utility, he actually came onto the field for Marty to power. So I think he was playing front row most of the time anyway. 120 running meters, 3 tackle breaks, and a line break assist.
Fair.
So, not a bad night for Walker off the bench.
No, a pretty solid performance there. But the Dogs did give it to Manly.
Yeah, they did, but I don't know how they're going to respond next week with the Melbourne Storm in tow, but we'll touch on that very soon, as it's now time to have a look at round 4. Gold Coast versus West Tigers, your first up action on Thursday night football, and a couple of changes enforced for Michael Maguire. No Stefano Utoikamanu for at least the next 6 weeks, as well as there being no Tom McHaley. So Zane Musgrove moves back into the front row as he was starting there, and Alex Seyfarth is back on the bench, and along with the return of, I believe, James Roberts and Ken Mamalo after withdrawn last week due to injury.
Titans, there have been some changes with new recruit Jermaine Osako to play at fullback, replacing rib-injured Jane Campbell, with Corey Thompson returning from a hand injury himself, replacing spicy cough Philip Sami on the wing.
The Titans' collapse would have been a huge concern to Justin Holbrook, given their performances over the first 2 weeks.
And you could see in the coach's box in the game against Canberra when they won, he wasn't happy. They had that in their bag.
Oh, they did. If they started out the same way in the second half, the Titans would have romped home against them. And I think, what's going wrong with David Fafita? Because I honestly felt like that was another quiet night from him. I was more focused on Beau Fermor and Big Tino than I was Fafita.
I was going to say, Beau Fermor, he's been having a wonderful season so far. I think it's been one of his best starts in a while, if not at all, in his career.
Well, he's only just recently, in the last 3 years, moved into the position as a starting back rower. And he's, believe me, he's flourishing.
He can play a bit of centre.
Yeah.
But, look, he's having a brilliant season. That's helping the Titans. I know they haven't had a lot what would you say? I was going to say I haven't had a lot of wins, but especially last week against Canberra. But he's been one of the standout players so far for Gold Coast this year.
That is my big concern, but at the same time, the Tigers lack of dedication to play 80 minutes. That's going to be my big problem. And coming into this clash on the Gold Coast, Michael Maguire needs something at this point, but I don't think the Tigers are going to get it. I think Holbrook's going to light a rocket underneath every one of the Tigers. The Titans forward pack, especially David Fafita, because he needs him to lift.
Yeah.
If the Gold Coast want to go back-to-back finals. I wouldn't try really bombing Asako. I think he's pretty reliable under the high ball when he's on.
Psycho's experienced enough. He's just in new colours. So he's basically going what Tavita Pangai did, but
Asako's going to play a lot more games,
yeah,
you'd think.
But Pangai went from Brisbane via Penrith to the Dogs.
And he's going from Brisbane to the Gold Coast to the Dolphins.
Yeah, Brisbane to the Dolphins via the Titans, but yeah.
I wouldn't want to be Michael Maguire on Thursday night when this goes down. And I think the Titans will be looking for a response because they'll be disappointed after that result. I'm going to say the Titans win this 13+.
Well, Tigers are the only club without a victory this season. They've been close in a few matches, such as the one against Melbourne. They did put up a decent fight, and then again against the Warriors. Newcastle was a whole different story. But I'm going to say Titans to win this one by 20 points.
So you're calling for a big 13+ for the Titans?
Oh, yeah.
Now, to the first of the Friday night games, and yes, it is Friday, and it is April Fool's Day. No funny business there. Cronulla v Newcastle. Walk us through the changes here.
Okay, well, Kalen Ponga has been named at fullback again because he was named last week but then dropped out, but who knows if that's going to be the case this week or not. Brody Jones is in to replace Mitch Barnett with 6 weeks out. Swasso Sue's been named on the bench after a brilliant return from New South Wales via New South Wales Cup last week.
As for the Cronulla Sharks, with Connor Tracy having done his groin, he will not be available for this game. So Talakai shifts from the second row into the centres. Ronaldo Mulatalo returns on the wing at the expense of Matt Ikuvalu. And Teague Wilton back in the second row, which that explains Talakai coming back in. And Aidan Tolman will play his 300th game in the NRL.
Good on him. He's such an underrated player, Aidan Tolman. Such an underrated player.
Solid player.
Solid but underrated. If anything's to go by, the Sharks are in prime position to win this one. Although, with Ponga being back, could that be a turning point for Newcastle?
I don't know if it is or isn't, but at this rate, the Knights are walking wounded into this game. No Clemmer. Ponga's still got questions over his fitness after he was withdrawn last week against Penrith, and after the humiliation they copped against the Panthers in the final 20 minutes. Couple that with the performance of the Sharks in the last 2 weeks, having built up into this. This is a feeding frenzy, as I said, and I think if Nico Hines gets the ball early and gets his power right, the Sharks are going to dominate in the middle of the field, with the likes of Rudolph, Hanley-Ueli, Fafita and Finucane rolling right down the middle of it. I think the Sharks win this one big, 13+ at home.
I'm going to have to agree. The Sharks are going to win this one. They are on exceptional form at the moment. Like you said, they're building onto something. I'm going to say Sharks 13+, and to be precisely 16.
And now the big one, the grand final rematch. The Panthers against the Rabbitohs, and Jason Demetriou, having earned his first victory of the campaign, names an unchanged lineup to the one that ran out over the Roosters, but Blake Taaffe and Josh Mansour have been included in the reserves, with Taaffe as 18th man.
Massive news with Penrith, with Nathan Cleary returning, which I basically thought was going to happen last week. So with him returning, there's also other changes. Scott Sorensen is in the starting 17 for Chris Smith. And Lindsay Smith comes onto the bench.
This is going to be a very interesting game. I mean, all good for Liam Knight for South Sydney. He has battled concussion problems in the past, and I hope he does as well. But they've already sort of signalled that they're really going to test out Nathan Cleary's shoulder in this game.
Well, why? That's the clear thing to do, though. Like, seriously. He's come off shoulder surgery. Of course they're going to be targeting it.
This is going to be a very entertaining clash, right?
Are we going to get a square up from the grand final? As in 1-1?
I don't think we are. I think the Rabbitohs are going to throw a lot at Penrith, but I think if their defensive regimen holds up, and we know they can score tries in a hurry, but I don't think this is going to be a try-scoring fest. I think this is going to be exactly like the grand final. Well, power through the middle, solid defense, and with only the marginal list of mistakes, whether that be intercept for Stephen Crichton, or even if it takes a 2-point field goal from Nathan Cleary. I think this is going to be a close one. I think the Panthers win this.
Or what about a 2-point field goal from John Mitchell?
Yeah, it could happen. It could happen. It could go either way. But I think the Panthers win this 1-6.
Game of the round, I'm calling it right here, right now. Because that's what it's got to be. Game of the round. I'm tipping Rabbitohs to get revenge from the grand final. And say Rabbitohs by one single point.
So you're calling the Panthers 1-6.
Rabbits 1-6.
Now jumping from the west of Sydney to the east of Brisbane, or should I say, the northern areas of Brisbane. It's the Warriors at Redcliffe hosting the Brisbane Broncos.
Kirk Capewell, he's been listed amongst the reserve as he's battling a calf issue. Tom Flegler is back from suspension on the bench, with Jordan Ricky being named despite rib cartilage damage. Ryan James has been promoted to the starting side. TC Rabati's also back on the bench after gaining more game time last week in Queensland Cup. And Corey Jensen dropping to the reserves.
Couple of changes for the Warriors. Jack Murchie promoted into the game day 17 with no Bailey Sirenen. Question marks over Eli Katoa's fitness at this point after suffering that injury to his eye last week. But the big one, Sean Johnson listed in the reserves for Nathan Brown's side.
I'm going to say Sean Johnson will be probably a late inclusion.
So you think Johnson will be a late inclusion?
Possibly. I don't know, but possibly. Although they might give him an extra week and do what Penrith did with Cleary. Give him the extra week and then come back the following week.
I think even if Johnson was to come back now, I don't think it's going to solve any problems that the Warriors had against the Tigers, especially where they couldn't score more than 2 tries. And you think about it, they have only managed, so far they've gone 12, 18, down to 12, 16 actually. That's not a lot of points.
No. I know it's a bit of a different comparison, but I'm going to say it. At least they're in double points, getting double points, and points on the board like Toulouse did in the Super League.
I mean,
they're getting points on the board. Yes, I know the Warriors have been around a lot longer than Toulouse in the main league, but that's what it's like.
I mean, that's 15 points a game they've been averaging.
Yeah. I mean, it's not good enough, though.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it's not the worst attack. It does read 50 points to 60, negative 10 for and against. A lot more than the Dogs' 28 and 33. But I'm expecting a big response out of the Broncos. I know I'm probably going to kick myself if Brisbane lose to the Warriors.
Won't we all?
Yeah, I think we all will. But I think they're going to rally at this point. I think they are thoroughly disappointed by how they performed, but I don't see anything in the Warriors that could tell me otherwise.
No.
I'm calling this Broncos win 7 points to 12. I think if they know they're going to get Tony Staggs into the game, and I think if they get Staggs into the game, it's good night, Irene.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm going to say Brisbane by 12 points.
Now from Redcliffe to Mudgee, it's the Sea Eagles up against the Canberra Raiders, and there's only been one change for Ricky Stewart's side. Sebastian Chris has been dropped in favour of the returning Nick Cottridge in the only change. With Matt Frawley returning back to the bench, though it could still be a late swap between himself and Tom Starling.
Sea Eagles 117 as per last week, with Josh Aloiai listed amongst the reserves as he has now finished his suspension. This one would actually be a juicy contest. Canberra is in meh.
And to be fair, so is Manly. They're both meh.
Yeah, but Canberra have been a little bit better than Manly based on last week. But what you say, narrow victories... you say narrow losses tend to do it, but narrow victories could also come back and hurt them as well.
They could.
But in saying in narrow wins, Manly had that narrow win against the Dogs, which could favour the Raiders.
It could, but I think form and head-to-head plays a big part of this as well, and I think the Raiders head-to-head against Manly has been far from appealing. Some very ugly score all lines, and I think this is usually the point. We've seen it in 2017, we saw it again in 2021. This is usually the part where all it takes is for Manly to get one scrappy win, and then they're off and flying. I think this is exactly what we're setting up for. One scrappy win it takes against a side like Canterbury, and I think Manly are off and running. I think the Raiders are really going to offer up a competitive challenge, but I think it's a Sea Eagles 7-12 victory.
I like the Raiders heading into this match. They fought hard to come back from 22 points down against Gold Coast. And Tavojevic hasn't been that impressive so far this year. So I'm actually going to say Canberra to win it by 8 points.
So you're calling Canberra 7-12?
Yep.
Well, I'm sticking with the men from Manly. Now, jumping on to the final game on Saturday, the Cowboys, after their convincing win over the Broncos, up against the luckless Roosters at the moment.
The lineup is for the Roosters only one change, with Daniel Saluka Fafita coming onto bench in place of Fletcher Baker. And Trent Robinson is missing a trip after getting a spicy cough. And
I believe Jason Riles and Brett Morris have been given the reins to take over in his absence. No changes for the Cowboys. Always running out with a unchanged 17, though Scott Drinkwater included in the reserves.
As is Jermaine Tunua-Brown.
But I think Drinkwater's been the bigger surprise for everyone.
True. To
be quite fair.
Yeah. Well, where do we go here? The Roosters aren't been the flashiest as of late. The Cowboys have been a surprise packet this year.
I will admit, North Queensland have surprised a lot of people.
But it's only early days.
It's only round 4 at this point in time, but even so, the way they're playing.
Especially the last 2 weeks, and especially the last week against Brisbane.
Thinking inside my head just before we started, I was thinking, oh yeah, the Roosters are going to steamroll them 13+. But now, factoring in both situations, I don't think the Roosters are going to easily roll the Cowboys at this point.
No. The Cowboys will play pretty solid like they have been as of late. And if they continue on what they did against Brisbane, we could see... I don't want to say an upset, because the Roosters are a top team, but I'm going to say an upset because Cowboys not being a top team based on last year compared to the Roosters, it could be an upset.
I think if the Roosters sort out their completion issues, because I think they have been in games, but their completion issues is in the tackle options have not played out to their advantage. If they can force the Cowboys into mistakes, I can see the Roosters gaining the upper hand only just against what really has been a very strong North Queensland forward pack at the moment.
Very much
and
so.
Tommy Dearden are really starting to flourish in this environment. But Trent Robinson and will be expecting a response out of his men. And I think there's another reason in his absence that it was just like, all right, let's not clock off here. Let's get this thing and going. I'm going to say the Roosters win, but I think they only win 1-6. I think the Cowboys will give them a good run for their money.
Oh, Trent Robinson will still have his influence of the Roosters, even though he's not actually at the game. I'm sure he'll be chatting to them via video call over this next week. But I'm going to say the Cowboys to win by 10 points. I'm liking the Cowboys at the moment.
Well, it's going to be a close one. Now, the Storm against the Bulldogs in the first telecast game on Sunday. One change for Trent Barrett's side. Jack Hetherington has been ruled out for the rest of the year, unfortunately due to a shoulder reconstruction. So Corey Waddell stays in the starting lineup, and Arva Siamanafana'i has been added to the interchange. Reece Hoffman, the 18th man, with Avarillo still listed in the reserves, with Brandon Wakeham at half-back.
Xavier Coates and Harry Grant are back, with Brandon Smith going back to the bench and Nick Meaney and Chris Lewis dropping out altogether in otherwise unchanged side for Melbourne. Josh Adokar against his former club in Melbourne.
I honestly think we're going to get flogged here. I honestly believe this is usually the moment, and I have said this, and this has rung true in the past. Narrow loss like that, get flogged the next week.
Yeah.
Didn't apply to Parramatta, but it certainly applied to the Dragons.
Yeah, that's not bad there. No, but that's true though.
Look, I think that Brandon Smith, I should say, because there's two bloody Smiths there.
Well, yeah.
But the Cheese-Grant dynamic. And then, of course, you got Jerome Hughes, who's probably amongst the top 5 halfbacks in the NRL at this point, alongside Cleary, Reynolds, DCE, and maybe Mitchell Moses if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Forward battle should be interesting, provided Pangai Jr. and Thompson can keep their games clean. But I see nothing else but the purple domination getting back on track. I think Melbourne, 7-12 here, will be in command.
It'll be interesting to see how Josh Adokar performs back at a ground that he called home for so long against his former club. I'm going to say whenever he gets the ball, the Melbourne crowd will be booing him.
They will.
I'm going to tell you that right now. But the Dogs will fight. There is always fight in the Dogs, regardless of what form they're in. But, sorry, Connor, I'm going to go Melbourne by 18.
So I said Melbourne 7-12. You're calling it Melbourne 13+. That's completely fair. I can take that. And right there, as we look to the final game of the men's round 4, Eels versus Dragons at the CommBank Stadium in Para.
Dragons, there have been some changes. Matt Fiona is replacing Cody Ramsey, and Jack Gajeski, I still need to get that right, starts in the back row for the suspended Jaden Sewer, and Aaron Woods is returning from the bench with a hamstring.
With George Burgess listed in the reserves. Whilst one change for the Eels, of course, no Raisto, and after tearing his ACL in that match-winning play for Brad Arthur's side, Ryan Madison and Bryce Cartwright are the new men on the bench. And Madison returning from injury, pushing Wiramu Greg back to the reserves. Mitch Rain, the 18th man. I could easily get tripped up here again.
Well, we all know what happened last time the Dragons played the Eels at CommBank.
The last 2 times they played.
2 times, yes. One in Paul McGregor's final match, where we upset them, and the other one was when...
Round 4.
Yes.
Same time again last year, where Griffin did the exact same thing McGregor did.
Yeah.
So the Dragons are a bit of on a roll at the CommBank against Parramatta. That's practically 2 of the last 3 times you've met. You've come away with the dub.
Pretty happy about that. So what? Ramsey's out with what? Hamstring. He's compared to last year, or even the back half of last year, he hasn't really been that in that scoring machine that we know he has been done in the past, and also he's been fairly quiet. But Fiona, he's a suitable replacement.
It'll be very interesting. Ravalawa versus Walker Blake, the battle of the Fijian wingers out on that edge, and I'm going to be interested to see who can put on the biggest shot, or who can put all off the more spectacular try. But I'm leaning with Parramatta after the confidence of beating Melbourne in Melbourne.
Yeah, well, you're not saying that because Parramatta are your second team.
No.
So it's technically, even though you maintain the Bulldogs, technically it's me v you again.
Yes.
Or for the first time this year, I should say.
Yes.
Technically.
It's round one of our inner battle, all of who can sledge harder.
Well, you can sledge harder, but who gets the last laugh?
Well, I do. Because I got 2 chances. You only got 1.
What do you mean I get
look,
one?
I think the Eels will take a lot of confidence out of that result over the Storm. Could get tripped up, but you know what? I don't see it here this time. I think strong defensive resolve and resilience in this Eels side. I think they win 7 points to 12.
To me, last game out against the Sharks or the Dragons was it started to slip back into old habits that what they did at the back end of last season. Need to get it out of that fast. But based on previous records at Combank against Parramatta, we have come away with the win. I'm going to be biased here and say that Ravalawa is going to do the biggest hit out of the Fijian winners.
So you think Ravalawa is going to do a bigger hit?
Yes, but Walker Blake is going to do the better try, scoring the try thing. So, because it's technically against you, I'm going to go with the Dragons by 6.
Dragons by 6. All right, well, from one Dragons team to another, the Dragons v Titans NRLW semi-final of second versus third. A couple of changes for the Titans with Tasman Gray back in the side alongside Georgia Hale. Ivana Polite could feature late 8 in the East, but at this stage still listed in the reserves. Your quick tip for the semi-final with a relatively unchanged Dragons side, unlucky to miss out on the minor premiership.
I mean, there is a few changes, but yes. Come on, I'm going to say the Dragons. They've been going on so well so season. They're going to make the grand final for the first time in their history.
You mean the second time?
Sorry, second time.
I thought you would know this as a St. George supporter.
Yeah, I had a mind blank, okay?
It's probably not the only thing you've been having.
No.
Touchy-feely? You getting on with Georgie there?
No. But I'm going to say Dragons to win this one.
So you're...
In a 1-6 margin.
So Dragons, first team to go through to 2022 A Grand Final. I'm actually going to go for an upset. I'm going to go with the Titans to get into this Grand Final.
They are a smoky, though. If the Titans do win, I will be disappointed. But I'll be happy for the Titans.
All right. One says as established. I'm saying newcomer. Now, talking of established, Broncos versus Roosters.
Let's just see. Same side for the Roosters.
A couple of changes for the Broncos and the fact that Tamika Upton and Julia Robinson will be making their returns after missing their respective games, with Hagia Mosby back to the reserves and Ada Ferguson as the 18th woman. I mean, come on, we only know one result right here.
What, Roosters?
No, the Broncos to make a 4th straight grand final, and I think they'll do it 13+. I think the Roosters, this will be a quick one and done for them.
I don't know. I mean, yes, the grand final's been playing up in Redcliffe. Funny if it's an all Sydney grand final in Queensland for the second time. Remembering NRL side.
Yeah.
So in saying that, I'm going to say the Roosters to win in a 1-6 match and have an all Sydney grand final in Queensland in quick succession.
I think you're dreaming, but can't really stretch it too
to
hard.
the men's Panthers-Rabbits match last year.
And on that note, that's all the time we have for today, but don't go anywhere. We'll be back tomorrow with your Betfred... Well, really, it's actually the Betfred Challenge Cup round 6, Betfred Super League round 7 debrief. Don't forget to give us a follow on social media media. On Facebook, Instagram, it is Sideline Chat. And on Twitter, it is Sideline Chat RL. And we'll be back tomorrow to talk the Challenge Cup.